How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to the Howdy Hoopers pod. In today's episode, we have some fun stuff lined up. We're going to be ranking the top 10 point guards for the 2025-2026 NBA season. And yes, I know, this feels like a pretty basic topic. I feel like every NBA creator does this during the offseason. But hear me out. I have a reason why I want to talk about this. It's not because the NBA offseason's dead, which it is. And the only real news is, the Kawhi Leonard situation, which I feel like every single creator's already talked about. So I didn't really want to talk about it. Kawhi's my guy. Don't really know what's going to happen. But yeah, I just don't really feel like talking about that. But the reason why I want to make this video and the videos of the other positions going forward is because I saw some videos, I saw some articles of people ranking their top 10 point guards, and let's just say some of the lists were pretty dang bad. I don't know if my list is quite perfect, but the approach that I took for this, it's not who's the best player for the 25-26 season on October when the season starts. My approach is who's the best player in the top 10 best players when the season's ending. Maybe not after the playoffs, but right when the regular season ends, who are the top 10 point guards and where am I going to rank them? Who's going to be where? And I just got to say, I have a lot of mix up. I got a feeling that a lot of people are going to be very upset with some of the things I say, but only time will tell. I want you to come back in the summer when the season's over and make your arguments then. But as of right now, this is who I think is going to be the top 10 point guards. And we're going to start from the bottom. We're going to start with honorable mentions. Starting off, I do want to say first, I didn't rank Halliburton or Damian Lillard just because they were injured. They're not going to play this entire season. At the very end, I'll talk about where I think they would have gone, but I didn't put them in my top 10 list since, they're not playing this entire season or most of the season. I also just thought of Kyrie, so we're going to add him as well. I knew I was forgetting one other person, but we're also going to put Kyrie in there as well because I think he would make the top 10 pretty easily. But starting off with some honorable mentions, the first one I have is James Harden. Last season, James Harden, he kind of threw it back a little bit, was able to play like his Houston Rockets, style of basketball. He was able to be the system. He's talked about that, how he is the system of teams, and he was able to do that. And honestly, the Clippers overachieved, especially when Kawhi Leonard was out. They overachieved. Many people thought they were going to miss the playoffs. And, this team made the playoffs. And something that's underrated, I talked about this in my last video, but I can't stress this enough. The Clippers took the Nuggets to 7. Yes, they lost in the first round, but they took the Nuggets to 7, who then went to play. The Nuggets played the Thunder in the second round, and the Thunder got taken to 7 games by the Nuggets. And the thing is, people don't give them enough credit that this team, although they lost in the first round, the Clippers lost in the first round. They played a team that pushed the team that won the championship to 7 games. I mean, that honestly doesn't mean much. They still lost in the first round, but I think people aren't putting this in their mind that maybe they're closer than they think they are. They made some moves this offseason, and I think they might be slightly better. I think they're going to be in the same position, about the 4 or 5 range for seeding. But honestly, the West is a bloodbath. Any team could pull it out, and if the Clippers went on a run, made it to the Western Conference Finals, I wouldn't be surprised. But I went on that tangent. But I have James Harden as an honorable mention. I think he's going to take a slight step back this season. He wasn't really that efficient. Although he played great last season, he wasn't very efficient. His numbers were, they're not typically that low. And, his points per game I think it was around 20. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm just trying to go off memory right here. So if I'm wrong, don't press me too hard in the comments. But his efficiency was down. And that partly is due because he didn't have help around him. He didn't have Kawhi Leonard. He has a pretty good, center with Zubac behind him. But it was basically him running the show. They've got some new players coming in that I think will help. And with Kawhi Leonard hopefully getting to play, I know we talked about the beginning of the episode, but I think he's going to take a step back with age and also getting more help around him. Trading for John Collins I think was very, very underrated. And I think he's going to take a step back because he has more help and his age. That's kind of a long time talking about, an honorable mention, but the next one I have is De'Aaron Fox. Fox is on a new team. We saw him play a little bit with the Spurs, but then Wemby went down and then he went down. But he's one of those players that's always been so underrated in my opinion, and I really, really wish I could have fit him on this list, but I couldn't. But he's one of my honorable mentions. My other one, I think a lot of people are going to be upset about this, is LaMelo Ball. And the reason I have LaMelo Ball off isn't because, he's not talented, he's not good enough. Obviously, he plays for a really bad team, but partly the reason why this team has been so bad over the last couple of years is because the guy cannot stay healthy. Him and Zion are two players that I feel like have the potential to be great, but they just can't stay on the court. They're always injured, and I don't think that's going to change this year, unfortunately. We see it with his brother Lonzo. They're made of glass, which is unfortunate because they're all really good ball players. All three of the Ball brothers are, but they're, injury prone, and that's it with that. My number 10, I feel like this is another one that's going to make a lot of people upset, but I think this player, he's never made an All-Star game before. He's been in the league for quite a while. He's an NBA champion, never made the All-Star team. If he doesn't make the All-Star team, he might be the best player ever not to make an All-Star team, if that makes sense. And I don't know if you guys know who I'm talking about. You might know who it is, but I'm talking about Jamal Murray. And, Jamal Murray, he kind of struggled in the regular season the last, year or two. But I think this year he really bounces back. He was injured, playing in the Olympics or playing for Team Canada. He was supposed to be their second or third best player on their entire team. And he was almost unplayable, to be honest, which is pretty sad. He's able to bounce back towards the end of the season. He played, all right. He played good, but Jamal Murray is known as a player, like in the bubble, is scoring 50 points in the playoffs, and different things like that. He didn't elevate as much. He did elevate, but not to the level that we're used to. But this season, I think the Denver Nuggets are going to be, the best team in the NBA. They might have the best record. I think maybe the Thunder and the Cavs have a better record than them, but the Denver Nuggets are going to be the best team in the NBA, and because of that, it's going to be large part, to new players added on, Cam Johnson, getting players back, deepening their bench, whatever it is, getting better defensive players, deeper players off the bench, and having playable players off the bench. But I think a large part is going to be because of Jamal Murray. Last year, I thought, Aaron Gordon was probably their second best player. But this season, I think Jamal Murray is going to claim that title back. He's going to become, the second best player, clear-cut second best player in the Nuggets on the best team in the NBA. And he's going to get that playoff nod. I think he's still going to be averaging about the same amount of points. But the way he does it is going to be, a lot more impactful. There's 20 points and 20 points. There's two different types of 20 points. There's the 20 points that necessarily doesn't matter. There's a Cam Thomas 20 points where, he scored 24 points or whatever, but they're not as impactful as like a Tyrese Halliburton 20 points. And I think this year's, 20, 24, whatever points per game Jamal Murray is going to average is going to be a lot more impactful, and people are going to feel that a lot more. And that's why I have him as the 10th player on my list. The next one I have up is a player that's already made an All-Star team, but I think, people are going to get more and more exposed as his team is better. This is another hot take. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to have the best record in the NBA. That might not be super, super hot because they were great last year, but I think they're going to be dominant this year. I think Donovan Mitchell is going to come out and be great, but Darius Garland is going to prove himself again. He had a great season last year, but, a lot of people don't necessarily watch. The casual fan doesn't watch the Cavs. They're watching only the bigger teams. They might have been watching a little bit more last year because they were such a great team. But this year is the year that Darius Garland gets put on the map, and he's going to show out. And that's why I have him ranked as, the ninth best point guard. I think he's going to, prove a lot of people wrong. And I don't know if he's going to make an all-star team. He might be better than Jamal Murray, but he might be a player that doesn't make it just because the Cavs, have a lot of great players. They have Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, who I think are, 1 and 2. And I think Evan Mobley will make it over him. So I don't think they'll have 3 All-Stars, but he'll miss it. But I think he's the 9th best point guard in the NBA when the season ends. Next up, we have a player. I had a really, 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 really hard time ranking this player because I think he'd go one of two ways. I think this player could explode and potentially jump his way into the top 5. Or I feel like he's also a type of player that could drop to 9, 10, 11, maybe even 12. And the thing is, this player is very, very, very talented. We saw maybe, I think it was like his second or third year, he's averaging 28 points per game. And then ever since then, it's kind of been downhill for different reasons, with injuries and also, questionable actions that he's made off the court. And that is Ja Morant. I have him ranked 8th. And the thing is, last year, we saw him, he had a dang good season, but it's not as good as we've seen in the past. I think he was 23 points per game last year, but we've had a season where he was 28 points per game, and he just can't stay healthy. And sometimes, I don't know if this is actually true, but I feel like when players get in trouble off the court, when they're doing things questionable off the court, and the media has a big spotlight on them, some of the players never recover. And Ja Morant might be one of those players that he's good. He might be an all-star, a couple more all-star teams in his career. But I'm just hoping that he can make a jump back. I'm not the type of person that's preying on someone's downfall. I want to see good basketball. I want to see the highest level product we can possibly have. And I'm hoping that Ja Morant can make a jump back up to that 28 points per game. But even last year, it was Jaren Jackson's team. It wasn't Ja Morant's team. And I'm hoping this year he proves me wrong. But I have him as the 8th best point guard. I'm picking somewhere in between how I feel. The next person up, a lot of people might think I have this guy really high, but hear me out why I have him so high. The next person I have is Tyrese Maxey. Man, was this guy electric last year. The last 2 years, he's really, really stepped up, was the perfect co-star, for Joel Embiid. And it was supposed to be, he was supposed to be 2A or 2B last year, bringing in Paul George. And we honestly don't know what's going on, with Joel Embiid. We don't know how Paul George is going to bounce back. I think even if Paul George bounces back, Maxey's going to be the clear-cut number 2 if Joel Embiid is healthy and playing. But I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities, and I think he's going to prove us wrong again. We didn't think he's going to be this good, and I think he has one more level he can go. And I think he's going to be ranked the 7th best point guard when this season ends. I don't know how the Sixers season's going to go. I'm really hoping Joel Embiid can be healthy, but he's another player. I don't bank on players that, have bad health history. And Joel Embiid might be, he's on the same level with the LaMelo Balls and the Zion Williamsons, maybe even worse. But I'm hoping for the best. Either way, I think he's going to show out, and he's going to prove that he's the 7th best point guard in the NBA. Next up, the top 6 point guards are kind of where we're getting to the elite level. Top 5, 100% the most elite players. These players you could start a franchise with easily. 6, I think you could too. And I think he's a very underrated player. Because he's been on a bad team, he's been underappreciated, and that would be Trae Young. Trae Young, for once, finally has, a competent team around him. I am worried that, they're bringing in Porzingis as, their 3rd or 4th best player, probably their 3rd best player on their team. But the thing is with Porzingis is, even the playoffs last year, we didn't really see him. A lot of the regular season, we didn't see him. And that's not abnormal for Porzingis. He's just the type of guy that's always injured. And I was really, really, really nervous when I was watching FIBA basketball. In the first game, he put up a stinker, like a bad stinker. But he eventually picked it up, and I'm hoping that, he comes in, he works well with Trae Young. And Trae Young's the type of guy that, I know his points per game was down last season, but he's the type of guy that can give you, 27 points and 12 assists. He could easily lead the NBA in assists, especially with Tyrese Halliburton being out. The only real competition I think he has is Jokic, but I think he might be able to beat out Jokic for the most, the highest assists per game average. Next up, we're talking about the most elite groups. I feel like the higher you get on the group, like higher on the list, you talk less about the players. I feel like I talked a lot more about, James Harden, but I think it's just more obvious. More people know. More people are in agreement. But the next person I have is Jalen Brunson. And man, Jalen Brunson is one of my guys. I'm going to tell a little story about Jalen Brunson. When he was back on Dallas, they were playing in his last year. They played the Jazz in the playoffs. I went to that game. And I've been to a lot of games. I've seen a lot of different players. I've probably been to over, 40 games in my life. And a lot of those being in the last, 2 or 3 years. There was a year where I went to like 18 games in a season. So I go to a lot of games. I've seen a lot of players. I've seen a lot of like Kawhi Leonard. I've seen, Paul George. I've seen, Wemby. Who else have I seen? I've seen Ja Morant. I've seen a lot of people on this list. I've seen Trae Young. I've seen Ja Morant multiple times. James Harden, De'Aaron Fox. I've seen Damian Lillard multiple times. I've seen Tyrese Halliburton. I've seen Kyrie Irving. And out of all those players, a lot of those players are really, really good players. And those are just the ones I can think off the top of my head. I've also seen, I'm trying to think, but there's a lot of really, really good players. And the best player performance, at least, that I have seen comes from Jalen Brunson. In the playoffs, there's never been a performance that I've seen I've seen like Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, players like that too. By far the most dominant player I've seen for that singular performance was Jalen Brunson. This guy was a nobody at this point. This is before he signed his deal with the Knicks and was making, $100 million. He was making, pennies to what he should have been making. But this guy literally destroyed the Jazz. And this Jazz team was good. They were really good. And, it was supposed to be an easy win for the Jazz with, Luka Doncic out. But this man tore our team apart. It was bad. It was actually kind of humiliating. But just to say, he's my guy. I've forgiven him for destroying my team. But Jalen Brunson's a dog. I think he's going to be on, a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference. Potentially could make it to the finals. This is his year. And, I feel like he's a team guy. And he's doing all of that literally at 5'10". I know it says he's probably like 6 foot, 6'1", whatever it says he is. No, the guy's literally 5'10", and he's giving your best defender, 30 points. He's giving, Asar Thompson 30 points like it's nothing. Next up, I have a player that I think is currently not higher than Jalen Brunson, but will be at the end of the season, and that is Cade Cunningham. I've been on the Cade Cunningham and Pistons train for a couple years now. Was this 2 years ago when they lost like 27 games in a row, had the worst record in the NBA? I was delusional, and I thought after those first 2 games where they won like the first 2 games and had a great preseason, that this team was going to be good. I was a year off, but I believe now, and I've stayed with this team, and Cade Cunningham is a bona fide superstar. He showed that last year, and I think he's got another level, maybe 2 or 3 levels. I think we're going to look at him, when 2028 Olympics comes around. I think we're going to look at him as like he's one of the guys. It's like Anthony Edwards, Cade Cunningham are the guys leading Team USA. Obviously, I'm forgetting a lot of other players, but that's just the 2 players that came to my mind. Like he's going to be on that level with players like Anthony Edwards. And I've got a lot of faith in him. And the top 3, I feel like these players have been the top 3 for a couple years now, but this player's dropped down in the last couple years, and that'd be Steph Curry. Steph Curry's my number 3. The dude's literally, 36, 37 years old, and looks like he's still, prime shape for running around. He's giving your best defender work every single night, and he is older, and if he didn't have 2 of the, best players in the entire league in front of him, he would still be number 1. But there isn't a lot I have to say about Steph Curry, except that he is, one of the best players in the league, one of the best players ever. And at 37 years old, he's giving your best defender work, putting up 30 points a game, whatever. Maybe not per game, but can put up 30 points in a hurry, can get hot. I'm disappointed with the Warriors offseason, but I still think Steph Curry is, a top 3 point guard in the NBA. And my number 2 and number 1 obviously are Luka Doncic and SGA, but I actually have SGA at number 2. I have the MVP of last year, the reigning NBA champ, the best player on the championship team, the Western Conference MVP, the Finals MVP. I have him dropping down to number 2, and not because I think he gets worse, but I think it's because Luka Doncic is going to have a better MVP season. How can Luka Doncic be this good? He's been, all NBA every single year. I don't think he made it this year because he was injured, didn't make the games played. But he's, 25 years old and already has 4 or 5 all NBA appearances. He was making it his second year in the NBA. In his second year, he was averaging 28 points per game, 8 assists and 8 rebounds, something crazy like that. And at this point, we're just numb to Luka Doncic, and we think that he's just, that's just normal. That's not normal for someone in their second year to average that, and he's been doing that consistently, a 30-point dang near triple-double every single season, and we can't keep going this long without giving this man an MVP. I don't think Jokic is going to get it, even though I think he deserves it. I don't think Giannis is going to get it, even though he deserves it. I don't think we're going to have a repeat MVP. I think Luka Doncic is going to win the MVP, and he's going to claim the best point guard in the NBA. I don't know how well the Lakers are going to do as a team, but I think he's the best player and is going to win the MVP, and that's going to put him over the top of SGA. I know it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers, and I know a lot of people are going to have really, really strong opinions about that, but that's my opinion. All right, quick cut in this video from Future Tyler, not for an ad for anything, but rather because I forgot to rank Halliburton, Lillard, and Kyrie. At the beginning of the video, I talked about how I was going to rank them. I didn't put them in my top 10 since they weren't going to be playing this season, but I did mention that I was going to rank them where I thought they would be if they did play this season, and I forgot to do that. So now we are here the next day, and I'm going to do that so you guys kind of have an idea where I'd put them. I was looking at my list, and I was like, man, the bottom of this list looks really, really weak. Why is this? And then it came to my mind that I forgot 3 of the top 10 players I didn't rank because they're injured, and I said I was going to put them in where I thought they would go at the end, and so we're here doing that now. But anyways, starting off with, I'm going to go from the lower ones up. If Damian Lillard was completely healthy, was able to play this whole year, I think I would rank Lillard. I think I'd rank him number 9, and which is crazy because Lillard's my guy. I could go grab a Lillard jersey out of my closet right now, right here, if I wanted to. I've been rocking with Damian Lillard for a long time. I rocked with him in his first round with Portland. I rocked with him when he was at Weber State. But I'm just a big Lillard fan. I've seen him play multiple times, and I just think he's getting a little older. He's kind of taking a progression a little bit backwards. He's still a great player, still an all-star level player, still one of the best point guards in the league. Obviously, he's still top 10, but I think I would rank him 8 or 9. If Kyrie Irving wasn't hurt, I think I would rank him at number 6, where I have Trae Young currently, and I'd bump Trae Young down 1 spot. But actually he's going to get bumped down 2 spots because of Halliburton, so he'd be 8th on this list now. I think actually I feel like him and Trae Young are on a very, very similar level. That's the thing with this list. A lot of these players are the same exact level. Like I look at Garland and Jamal Murray, and they're basically the same level player. You kind of just have to pick which one you think is slightly better, which one might be in a better situation, different things like that. So I see Trae Young and Kyrie Irving at this point in Kyrie's career as on the same level. I think Trae Young's going to have a good year like I talked about before, but I think I'd put him right in that range, right around, the 6-7 range. And then Tyrese Halliburton, a player that blew everyone's expectations out of the water. The Pacers were not supposed to make it to the finals. He was underappreciated the whole season just because he started off really rough. But I've been a guy, just like Damian Lillard, I've been rocking with Tyrese Halliburton for a while. I was beyond happy when the Pacers made it to the finals. I was rooting for them to win the whole thing, but obviously that didn't happen. But the thing with Halliburton is, and one reason why I think he might never be this popular ever again, is because his numbers don't show it. And the casual fan, a lot of them just look at, oh, he's only averaging 19 points a game. But what they don't realize is, like I was saying earlier in the video, I mentioned this some other random part of the video, that Halliburton's 19 points is just as impactful as like a Jalen Brunson's 28 points. Halliburton's the guy out there, it's not uncommon to see him get, 12 assists, have double-digit assists, and he just does so much for the team. He's the engine, the literal engine of this team. If you took out Halliburton last year and let's say plugged in Trae Young, maybe Trae Young's not a good example, but plugged in like Jaylen Brown or Ja Morant or someone like that, they would not nearly have as much success. And that's because although those players are really good engines for teams, Tyrese Halliburton is arguably the best engine for any team. He's one of the few traditional type of point guards we have left in the league where he just dribbles the ball up the court, is able to settle everyone down. I know people think, a point guard just brings the ball up the court, but a point guard is more than that. The point guard's the person that's able to, set up the offense. And a lot of these other players that are, the point guards that aren't traditional point guards. They might be bringing the ball up the court and they might be setting up the offense, but a point guard is the person that knows how to get the people in the right positions. They're the person that's able to bring the ball up the court and settle the entire team down. I think a great example of this is Mike Conley. Mike Conley might not be the best player. There's a lot of players better than him, but he's able to bring up the ball up the court even at 37, 38, whatever, 36 years old, however old Mike Conley is. He's able to set up the offense, get everyone comfortable, make sure the right people are getting the ball at the right time. And, he's the coach on the court. That's one thing a point guard is they're an extension of the coach, in my opinion. And that's why someone like Mike Conley, who's 38 years old, or however old he is able to still be in the league and still be, a starter last year. But that was kind of a random tangent. But the reason I was going on a tangent is because Halliburton is the best engine, I would say, in the entire NBA. And with that, I think I would rank him between 4 and 5. I think I'd rank him above Cade Cunningham. I have Cade Cunningham at 4th. I think he's going to make a big jump. But if Halliburton was still there, I would bump Cade down to 5 and have him at 4. But yeah, I was looking at my list and I was like, something just doesn't feel right. And, that's what it was. We were missing 3 of our top 10 players because of injuries. And I forgot that I was going to put them at the very end. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments. But I appreciate it if you made it this far. And watch out for, weekly videos. I took a kind of a long break. I took like 20 or 30 days off. I got married, bought a house, different things, but we're back and I'm excited. We're about to start the NBA season, but let me know what you think in the comments and I'll catch you guys in the next video.